I didn't put it on there, but you can do whatever you like.
Yeah, we'll do it. We're going to do the pledge and the invocation, then I'm going to turn it over to Steve and Mike for a little bit. And Mike's definitely going to explain our role with the school. And Steve has presentation, and then we'll take public comment. We're asking that public comment be kept to 3 minutes or less, and that it not be redundant. So please stand for the pledge and the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sal.
Father God, thank you for entrusting us with your town. I ask that you give us your wisdom and discernment and to help us make decisions this evening for the best of our town citizens. May we honor you in all we say this evening. Amen.
Steve?
Or do you want me to
Oh,
do
you want roll call, sorry.
Okay, Commissioner Pollan,
Here.
Commissioner Ramos,
Present.
Vice Mayor Satterfield,
Present.
Commissioner McMullen.
He will be on in a little bit. He's on a work call right now.
Okay. Mayor Stark,
Here.
we have a quorum.
Now I will turn it over to Steve. I've never run a meeting before.
All right, good evening, everybody. Steve Koontz, Town Manager for the Town of Oakland. And I'm going to go through just a real short presentation, just to kind of frame the issue as to why we're here and why we're having this emergency meeting. Not going anywhere. Yeah, it's on.
I'll just,
Yeah, if you just go through it. All right, the first slide I have here is just to give a little background on Oakland Avenue Charter School and where we're currently at. So the town commission on July 27th, 2021 approved a mask policy that at the time was following the recommendations of the Florida Department of Health and the Florida Department of Education, making masks voluntary. As part of that effort of being voluntary, we did want to support children that did, or parents that wanted to wear masks. So we did do a poll, and approximately 55% of the students whose parents have opted out of wearing masks, and about 45% of parents have opted to wear masks. So we're about 55-45 as far as the school goes. Now, the next couple slides are going to talk about things that have happened since that July 27th meeting that the commission had, some things that happened with OCPS and also some things that happened with the state, and then kind of bring us into why we're here tonight. So on August 2nd, OCPS implemented a policy. It's their EBBA, disease prevention, face coverings policy. And that authorized the superintendent to implement more restrictive face mask requirements in accordance with CDC or other governmental entities guidance that mandate more restrictive face coverings. On August 6, 2021, OCPS implemented a mask mandate for all employees and visitors. On August 9th, OCPS implemented a face mask requirement for all students unless the parent chooses to opt out of the requirement. And then August 24th, 2021, OCPS board members engaged in a discussion, this would have been last Tuesday, and gave Superintendent Jenkins direction to make face mask mandatory for all pre-K through 12 students and adults. The universal mask mandate will begin today, August 30th, until October 30th, so 60 days. The mask mandate will not be required for any student with a note from a doctor, nurse practitioner, or physician assistant, or an employee with a medical exemption. And the reason I bring up OCPS and we're talking about OCPS is the Oakland Avenue Charter School is chartered through OCPS. And in many instances over the years, the commission has chosen to follow policies and things that OCPS has done. So this is one of those going through what's happened with OCPS is part of the reason why we're here tonight to have this discussion. The next thing is the Department of Education and also Governor DeSantis. On July 30th, 2021, Governor DeSantis issued an executive order 21-175, ensuring parents' freedom to choose masks in school. So we were still in alignment with that executive order with our voluntary policy. On August 27th, which was Friday, a judge ruled against the state's executive order banning local districts from implementing mask mandates. And this is a quote that I took out of the West Orange Times, but it's from Judge Cooper. According to Judge Cooper, school districts have the right to set policies like mask mandates as long as they have compelling state interests and have a narrowly tailored plan of action. Now this, whatever the judge has put into place is not effective until the written order has been received or has been published, and that is expected this week. And that may have some nuances. I'm sure there'll be some legal things to parse through, but that's when the judge's order will be effective, is based on that written order. And I just want to give a little update on the latest COVID information for both OCPS and for the Oakland Avenue Charter School. So I got this off of the OCPS dashboard, which is published daily. So this was off of the dashboard this morning. As of August 30th, 2021, OCPS COVID-19 dashboard, there's 3,289 confirmed cases since the beginning of the year. That would be 631 employees, 2,643 students, and 15 vendors/visitors. Today, as of today, they have 1,427 active quarantines, which would be 27 employees and 1,400 students. As of today, for Oakland Avenue Charter School, we have 29 confirmed cases since the beginning of the year. Some of those were prior to the year starting, but as of right now, we have 29 confirmed cases, which would be 1 teacher, 1 after-school staff, and 27 students. And as of today, we have 31 active quarantines. Actually, that's 26 today. I'm sorry. And then according to Mayor Demings this morning at his press conference, they're reporting through the Department of Health that Orange County has a 14-day rolling positivity rate of 17.86%. So what brings us here today is all those things that have happened since July 27th, when the commission put the voluntary mask policy into place, warranting some further discussion among the commission as to whether we should change the policy or and follow what OCPS is doing, or whether we stay with the voluntary policy. With that, I'll turn it back to the Vice Mayor Satterfield. One housekeeping, if you do get up and speak, please sign in so that we can have your name for the record.
Okay, again, I'm Mike Satterfield, Vice Mayor, for those that don't know me. And right now, I'm just kind of explaining how we are, where we are with charter schools compared to Orange County Public Schools. As Steve mentioned, we applied for our charter with Orange County and was granted it 17 years, 18, I at least count, I'm old. 18 years ago. And what that does is state 2 things: that the governing board for our school is not the governing board for Orange County Public Schools. It is this body right here. It is the mayor and the commissioners. It also states that per our charter, we don't have to do what Orange County Public Schools does. That it has to be, by both sides have to agree to it in order for us to do it. If not, no harm, no foul. We do it, the way we kind of want to do it. That's the idea of a charter school. I also am very involved with it as far as I'm the liaison for our board to the school advisory committee and to the principal, Pam Dwyer, who's sitting right behind us, who I'm sure all of you know. And that's kind of where we stand. We're in an interesting position. We're one of, I think, only 2 charter schools in the state that is run by the town government. Most people have a management team that come in and run it, which we started to do in the very beginning, and we didn't go 3 years before we figured out that we could probably do a better job than what the management companies were doing. And as that ensued, we went from Cs and Ds on our grades up to As and Bs fairly well consistently all through. So because of staff, because of the principal, because of teachers, they have run a very, 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 very good school. So that's where we are. And that's how we end up with the decision falls to us at this point, that we're not just having to go by Orange County's mandates. It really is entirely up to us. Are there any questions on, where we stand with the county? And did I explain that well enough for everybody? Cool. All right, I will start us off. Mayor, you wanted to start off or?
Well,
did you
we
wanna
can
do that?
have discussion at the table first. And then we will take public comment. So do I have any discussion at the table?
You guys want to start? I have stuff, but you guys can go if you want. Okay.
I'll let you
All
start.
right, I'll start. And I want to start with this. This is a unique situation where we all want the same thing, but we want it differently. We all want what's best for these kids. We all want what's best for their health, and we all want their safety. And I would ask everyone to please remember that as we go through this evening, that it's not any other thing other than we want what's best for these kids. So it started out with the whole legal thing, which, we drop it. That wasn't really my main point. And I will have to say from the beginning that I am on the side that goes with the teachers and the 55% of the parents that say that the mask should be optional for the children. And I'll tell you my reasons for that being, twofold. One, I do firmly believe that the health and welfare of a child is up to the parents of that child or their children, not somebody, from a school district. The second part of that is we are a school of choice. And we've been very proud of that school of choice for all of these 18 years because we have let the majority of the parents be very involved in decisions that are made and how we want to teach our kids, how we want our kids to act, and how we want our kids to react. If we deviate from what the majority of the parents want, our whole mission, in my mind, kind of goes away. So we need to keep in mind that, again, for me, this is my opinions now, that parents should be able to make that choice for their children, not a school board, that our school should stand on its own as a school of choice. The other part I want to really kind of get everybody thinking about is all these years, we have really trusted our principal and our teachers to make the right decisions for our kids. Our teachers, I believe, and Pam, correct me if I'm wrong, for the majority opt out of the mask?
Based on observation.
Based on observation, that most of the teachers would prefer it to be optional. And there's no problem with kids that, their parents believe the mask part, have the mask. That's not the problem at all. But we want the parents that believe the other way to have that same freedom of choice. The fact that our teachers, for the most part, are kind of in that line of thinking tells me, again, confirms my opinion, because for all these years, our teachers have done everything that they think in their mind is right for these kids. And now would not be the time for them to deviate from it. So we got to put some trust in what they're saying at the school also. So those are kind of my 3 points, and I could go on for the soapbox for a long time, but in the essence of time, it's just those 3 things that I really wanted to bring to us. So that's pretty much my main thing. So with that, whatever you guys know.
Well, I agree with the choice and all that stuff, but the issue that the mask is not only protecting the person that's wearing it, but you're protecting other people. So that's where I have a problem is you need to protect the people around you, not just yourself. If it was only for yourself, I'd be 100% with you, but then you got to protect the people surrounding you. That's where I have an issue.
Sal?
I agree with what you said, Vice Mayor, and what you said, Commissioner Pollan, at both of you. The parents have a choice for their children, I agree. But I also agree that the children don't have a choice on preventive vaccine. If this was a charter school of a middle school or high school, I'd agree that they get vaccinated for the most part, and whoever would want to bring their kids with a mask. But since these children are, can't get vaccinated, whoever brings a mask or doesn't, they don't know. Children play, they don't understand the magnitude of what's going on. And I agree with Commissioner Pollan that whatever happens to a child, and if they're okay with their parents, they may be bringing the COVID home to their grandparents or family or friends, not just the children. So now we're talking about anybody else who could be infected. And I also, to go back into the history books, OCPS, the Oakland Charter Elementary School has always been, our school has always backed up the OCPS. This will be also historical for us to not back them up for the first time, but I also agree that we should back up the teachers and the principals. And I, at this point, I'm coming from a stance where I almost had a double funeral this week. I lost my father-in-law, close to losing my mother-in-law. At this point, I would not agree to let them have a choice, but to follow the OCPS mandate.
I agree with Sal that we're talking about kids who do not have the option to get a vaccine. That is very compelling to me. I also think that a 55-45 split among parents on this issue is what I've always called for the last 25 years, a no-win situation. There is no real, that's not a real majority. I trust the teachers, I trust the principal, I trust the parents to do the right things for their children. But in this instance, I think we are compelled to make a decision. That's what our job is. And sometimes we don't make the most popular decisions that there are. And this is, I mean, it can come down to life or death. And this is not, that's what it is to me. It's a very important situation. And in 1 year, I might look very foolish thinking that we should have a mask mandate. I really might look very foolish, but I would like to look foolish on the side of caution, not on the side of I want to do what people want to do. We're sitting here, we're wearing masks. Majority of the people I'm looking at are not. And that is, if you are able to get a vaccine, great. And that's your right at this time. That's what is mandated. But I cannot, for children who can't, I can't get past the fact that these are children who can't get a vaccine. So that's my position.
Commissioner McMullen's on.
Oh,
I'm sorry for coming behind you, Mayor. I finally got, I have a new computer and I apologize for traveling and not being there. You know, I agree with everything that's been said. You know, I don't want to be repetitive, but I would add to, I was on a call today with Orange County and some of the numbers that Steve mentioned was brought up on that call. But also I want to add, there are 1,000 on average 1,000 new cases per day in Orange County. If I can add more to it, those who don't know me, I'm a pharmacist by trade. I've been a pharmacist since the early 90s. And so healthcare is something, you know, that's a part of me. I work for an insurance company. We haven't been back to office since March. And we were supposed to go back this summer. We were supposed to go back September. We are supposed to go back October. I have a COVID call on this coming Thursday, to discuss the next plans. And I can see that date being extended. I'm a father of a college student. If she was still in high school, I would not allow, and she's vaccinated, I still wouldn't allow her to go to school. This is, the reason we're in this situation right now is viruses, they like a brain. And for those who aren't scientific or whatever, viruses mutate. That's why we're here right now. This virus is mutating. It has more hosts. It has more opportunities to jump from person to person to person. The more we have allowed people to not get vaccinated or not do these measures, it's going to continue. And that's why we're here right now. I came to this call after I heard the call this morning. It was like, you know, I would love to, you know, I want the principal and the staff to make the decision. But also, while these teachers are teaching, let's add this on to them. Now they got to do contract tracing. So are they really going to be able to do their jobs to the best of their ability? Orange, those numbers that Steve mentioned, all those teachers are, not only are they trying to teach, now they got to go back and contract tracing and assist with that along with trying to teach. And this is not going to be forever. Of course, you know, we want our kids, and when I see the emails, I see the letters, we want our kids to have that facial recognition. I know it's hard, but we're talking about a sacrifice that's going to help all of us. I have a 76-year-old mother in Miami, and she's afraid to go outside. And she's vaccinated. She doesn't want to get it. I don't want to get it. I'm watching TV, and there's a person who was an icon in Montgomery, Alabama. This person passed away at the age of 100 because of COVID. So that means that person would have still been here if COVID wasn't around. So you hear these stories and you see these things that's going on. I just ask, please, let's sacrifice for a little bit. We're wearing masks, social distancing so we can get past this. Let's not politicize this. We're talking about kids. We're talking about little ones. And not only that, we got COVID, we got flu season coming. There's another condition for young kids called RSV. That's on the rise. You don't hear about this. RSV is on the rise right now, everyone. And that affects kids' respiratory. My step-grandson has RSV that he caught because it's on the rise. So it's not just this one condition. This is going to continue to grow until we just try to do our best. Let's come together and not look at your political affiliation or how you feel. Let's look at this as a healthcare crisis and not point fingers, not say anything, but 1,000 cases a day in Orange County. That's scary. That is so scary. So I ask, please, let's try to figure out how we can work together for a few months to get past this. Give it back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right. We've had discussion at the table. I would like to start with those in the room. And as the town manager asked, please sign in and let us know who you are. This is, all comments are part of the public record. And please keep your comments to less than 3 minutes and not be redundant. If you want to mirror what someone else has said, just let us know you're mirroring it. Okay, so who would like to go first? Okay, please, and please come to the podium. We want to pass that around.
We can, there's more sign-in sheets over there too, if you want to start signing in.
Oh, the only people who need to sign in are those who are going to. And then we'll get your information, those from afar. We'll get your name in and then we'll figure out the rest later. Okay, thank you.
Should I speak towards you guys?
Yeah, you're good.
I'm gonna touch them, but I'm talking to you.
Turn, do this, go this way, go that way, go this way.
So my name is Flavio Quintela. My son Benjamin he's a first grader in the school. I came to this great country like 7 years ago from Brazil. I was looking for a better place to have and raise kids, and I found it here. I know this subject is super polarizing in every level of the society. And I have no intention of just giving an opinion. Because I think the opinion or it seems like that is not what we need. We need actual data. We need facts to decide. And the facts are that on May 28th, CDC published the largest study ever conducted in elementary schools. They got 90,000 students in Georgia, 169 schools. And they crossed data from all these students. And these are the findings. Number one, COVID-19 incidence was 37% lower in schools that required teachers and staff to wear masks. COVID incidence was 39% lower in schools that implemented improved ventilation. Distancing, hybrid models, classroom barriers, and requiring students to wear masks did not show any benefit, statistically speaking. This is a data from 90,000 students. Then 40 days later, CDC issued the updated guidance for schools and said that they recommended mask mandates for everyone. Now, a journalist named David Zweig, he inquired CDC, why did you issue something on top of nothing? Because the study just went on May 28th. It's on CDC website. I have all the links here. It's CDC study. It says there is no advantage in putting little kids, small kids to wear masks. Why did you change? CDC said, well, the agency just recommends the universal mask. That's it. Like no comments. At the same time, the countries in Europe are all taking those requirements down. So we got Ireland, no more. Sweden, no more. Iceland, no more. This is all for 12 and under. Norway, no more. United Kingdom, which is reporting similar COVID situation as the United States, per capita, they have just decided that September 1st, mandates are off for 12 and under. Northern Ireland, off. Scotland, off. I am vaccinated, 2 shots of Pfizer. I'm an engineer. I believe in science and research. I read tons of articles. I try to be as informed as possible to get my kids, the best they can. And I have not found one single study that shows benefits of masks for small kids. It's just, and the point that was said here, but the teachers have, more, they have to spend time they're going to have to track anyway. With masks, COVID case, the same tracking, it doesn't help at all. If they wear masks, there's a COVID case, we got the same situation of quarantine. And it's just, the more you study, the more you read about COVID, you see that small children have a very low risk of transmitting the disease. That is data. And I think we should use data and not what we think, or use any kind of emotional appeal, because we cannot trust the press because they want to choose sides, one channel from one side, the other channel for the other. We have to trust something. And, if CDC has a study and nobody is showing it because it just goes against what people want to hear, we should read it. It says it doesn't make a difference. We have the chance to keep our children free from politically influenced decisions like this one. And that's what I had to tell. I hope we can take that in consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you, Claudia.
You'll be next.
I'm sorry, I didn't say that.
That's okay.
Just a few points here.
Can you tell us your name?
Brent Ford, a few kids at Oakland Avenue. One, first, thank you to Ms. Dwyer over the past year and a half. The communication has been amazing, transparency amazing. You've kept us in the loop with everything. I wouldn't ask for anything different. You've been great. Just a few things. I think he mentioned the CDC only recommends it. I don't know why we keep talking about mandates. I've never heard the CDC mandate anything. They've only recommended masking. During the latest CDC meeting on July 27th, when they talked about the latest school masking guidance, again, only recommend, not forcing. Dr. Rochelle Walensky, the CDC director, I have the transcript of the call right here. At 16 minutes and 58 seconds into that call, when they recommended the masking, she goes, quote, obviously I should mention, it's always a personal choice as to whether someone chooses to wear a mask or not. And that should not be something that is stigmatized, end quote. The CDC director said that. It is a personal choice. That is her words, the CDC director. And we keep talking Orange County, thousands of cases, 20%, whatever. How many kids and faculty at Oakland Avenue? Charter total, 500?
Total, around 640 was.
640. Your latest update as of Friday, there was 9 active cases.
Yes,
That is,
five of which are 2 families.
that's 1.5% positivity rate. Not 20%, not thousands of cases. So we are at the most localized level right here within this school, and we have a 1.5% percentage right there. That's it. Thank you.
Come on up. Tell us who you are.
I'm Michelle Casto. I have a kindergartner at Avenue Charter School. I too am concerned about my child, but more so with the damages of prolonged mask wear, which data also supports. It can increase airway resistance during exhalation. Masks can be vectors of pathogens, particularly with small children touching them all the time. They can exacerbate anxiety in small children. Some children compensate by breathing through their mouths. Prolonged mouth breathing can alter facial development in children. Masking can cause psychological harm. Facial expressions are integral to human interaction, particularly with young children, especially 5-year-olds. So covering their faces mute these nonverbal forms of communication that they're just developing. Seeing people speak is a building block to phonetic development. So I'm more concerned with stifling my child's development when really it's for the sake of the adults. As someone else said, children rarely have severe symptoms of COVID. They're not at risk for developing long COVID like adults are. I mean, my whole family's had it, to be honest. My parents, my husband's parents, they're in their 60s, 70s. Ironically, they were asymptomatic. It's not always a death sentence. And even if it is, even if we say it's horrible, we don't want adults to catch it. We don't want the children to spread it, but we have to talk about the damage that the masking of the children can cause, just for the sake of the adults. It sounds like the teachers aren't that concerned about it at Oakland, and we're in the unique situation where we can listen to the community versus a school board or adults who may not even have children at the school. So speaking as an adult whose child is an actual child at Oakland Avenue Charter School, I would be more concerned that this is in place and then my child's development is sacrificed here for the adults. Thank you.
Hang on one second. Somebody else had their hand up before. I'm sorry. Okay.
Hi, my name is Dr. Kate Iannelli. I'm a clinical psychologist and parent of an OACS student. I thought it would be a good time for me to present to kind of piggyback on the psychological impact of mask wearing. So I would like to present some scientific data regarding that. CDC reported in February 2021 that masks can impede breathing. And a famous neurologist and neurophysiologist, Dr. Grice Brisman, stated, quote, "To deprive a child or an adolescent's brain from oxygen or to restrict it in any way is not only dangerous to their health, it's absolutely criminal." We know that oxygen deficiency inhibits the development of the brain, and the resulting damage is irreversible. Neurodegenerative disease take years to develop. Therefore, if you forget something today, it most likely started to occur 10, 20, 30 years ago, the brain breakdown. So I'm concerned about 10 years from now, what are we gonna see in these young children whose oxygen has been impeded? We might see brain illness, we might see dementia, we might, most certainly we'll see a lack of these children being able to reach their full potential because we mandated masks. It's not okay. A German study assessed 26,000 children and found impairments caused by wearing masks, including irritability, headache, difficulty in concentrating, less happiness, reluctance to go to school, malaise, impaired learning, drowsiness, and fatigue. Most concerning of all was a Brown University study. March 2020, they assessed babies who were born since the pandemic, reduced cognitive, verbal, and motor skills. Their IQ dropped 27 to 37 points on IQ measurement. Researchers identified that mask wearing by adults may have impacted this development from not being able to learn from facial cues. This is a startling and deeply concerning statistic, and is evidence that our growing children require the facial connection to learn and develop. I would also like to take a moment to point out that mask wearing makes it harder for children to develop linguistic skills or rely on facial cues, a particularly acute problem for children on the autism spectrum with hearing or learning impairment, or who are culturally diverse. Children are learning to create new sounds, develop speech, and are relying on our 42 facial muscles from teachers and others as cues, modeling, and feedback. Mask wearing impedes these small yet critical nuances of learning and growth. OACS is a school of choice, and I implore you to allow me as a parent to make this decision for my child. Remandating masks is a slippery slope, and as I have stated and provided ample evidence to support, is damaging for our young children and their growing brains.
Thank you. Tell us who you are.
My name is Mike Brody. I have two children that go to OACS, one in second grade and one in kindergarten. I've been in the health and fitness industry for 20 plus years now. First as a fitness instructor, and now as a physical education teacher at OCPS. I've always been fascinated with the immune system, how it works, what it takes to optimize it. And based on my experiences, just firsthand in my knowledge, the last thing I want in my child's face is a mask for their health. I know we can all sit here and we have our studies that contradict each other. We can argue those studies, but what we can come from that is the contradictions of these studies make it inconclusive at best, as if whether or not these masks actually help to reduce the transmission or the infection of the virus. We need to actually look at the actual facts. Dr. Michael Osterholm, he's an epidemiologist. He's actually Joe Biden's top COVID advisor. He was just on CNN a couple weeks ago, and he stated on CNN that the cloth masks that these children are wearing in schools are not effective. He stated that. It's hard to find now because YouTube, coincidentally finds a way to take it down because it takes away the narrative that they want to push, but you can find it. The internet is forever. Why did he say that? Cloth masks are too porous to stop the COVID particle or the COVID virus. It's 0.1 microns. Now, granted, it's debatable that they can stop the droplets. And I heard someone mention before, if you're talking, this is true. The microns are generally 5 to 10 for that. And that's debatable whether or not it can be stopped with talking. My experience is out of PE. Now, there's two criteria that would make it effective: if you're wearing it correctly and if you're not touching it constantly. Now, I teach PE. I'm around children all day long, hundreds of them. One, they're always touching their masks. Two, they're hardly ever worn out the right way, and if they are, they're generally a little too big for them. The other thing that I notice that concerns me is the moisture that's always built on these masks. These things are bacteria traps. There was a study just recently done at the University of Florida where they took face masks of some children that were only worn for 5 to 8 hours for that day. And unsurprisingly to me, it came back that there was 21 pathogenic bacteria strains on them. 11 of them were considered serious, also included disease-causing parasites and fungi that were detected on the mask. Now, just based on that alone, we could have the argument that that these could actually be more detrimental for these children's health than beneficial. We've already touched on the social emotional part. I'm not going to talk about that. I do want to talk about the dangers of COVID itself too. You know, we're all concerned about the children. Well, if we take a step back and look at the actual data, COVID has a 99.9% survival rate. How many deaths do we have of COVID? We do not know. We don't know how many have died of COVID because they track it by the amount that have died with it. We hear that 600,000 number thrown all over the news and all over the media. That's the amount of people have died with COVID. I lost my train of thought, I apologize. That also includes the amount of people who have died that tested within 28 days of dying that tested positive. So if I tested positive 2 weeks ago for COVID, which I didn't, but if I did and got in a car accident tonight, tragically, which by the way, I have a greater percentage chance of dying in a car accident in my lifetime than I do of COVID, that would actually be considered a COVID death. We hear a lot about the children. How many children have died with COVID because we don't know of COVID? Does anyone know? It's right on the CDC website. 450 children have died with COVID in the last 21 months. Does anyone know how many children died of the flu in 2017, 2018, the flu season, which was the fall of 2017 to the spring of 2018? Do you know?
That's pretty long ago.
It's 3-4 years ago. It was 650 that died in less than 12 months. And here we are in a panic over 450 died in 21 months, which averages to about 250 per year. Now, granted, that was a bad flu season, but on average, 200 to 300 children die a year from the flu. I heard a gentleman speaking on Zoom about RSV. RSV has always been an issue. We generally have 500 children die a year from RSV, and that's been not just now. RSV is not just spiking because of COVID. It's always been one of the more dangerous things that our children have experienced. But we didn't sit here and have a board meeting for masks back when we had that bad flu season. We didn't have it any other year for RSV. Why are we sitting here now? Because of the paranoia that the media likes to portray and put the fear in us. Now, I know there are people that have lost loved ones, and my heart does go out to you, but we can't take anecdotal evidence to base a decision on the grander scheme of things, because if you take a step back and look at actual data, especially for children, it just doesn't add up that we should be masking these kids. If I went on my anecdotal evidence, I could sit here and say that I haven't lost any loved ones. I haven't had any family members get sick. My parents are in their 70s. They don't wear masks. They haven't even been vaccinated, but that's anecdotal evidence. I cannot use that. I have to use the overall data to come up with an argument to this.
You hear the bell ringing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I just wrap it up real quick, 30 seconds?
Sure.
Okay, I'm sorry. I heard this talked about earlier with OCPS. OCPS decision should not affect us. We as parents chose Oakland because it is now OCPS, and we don't want to like the way they run their school. OCPS is also larger. They have over 200 schools and over 200,000 students. They base their criteria on different things. We are a choice school. Parents should have that choice. I know we said the 55-45 wasn't decisive, but that's just the amount of parents who chose to opt their kids out of masks. I'm sure there's many more parents that would probably be still on board with us having that choice. We need to let parents have the choice here instead of the bureaucrats like they did in OCPS making the decisions. And one thing, Mayor, I did hear you mention about the we have to wait till the children get vaccinated, but the vaccination isn't going to prevent the children from still transferring it and getting infected by it. And then I also heard up there, I wanted to mention to the guy who spoke on Zoom, because there are some false things we listed.
He's a commissioner.
Okay, one thing about that with the mutations, because he said we're going to keep mutating until we get ourselves out of this. We have to keep getting vaccinated to reduce the mutations. That's false. We're going to keep getting mutations regardless of vaccinations or not. It's called antibody dependent enhancement. Look it up. It's really interesting stuff. It actually can create a greater issue with mutations than natural immunity. So that's it. Thank you. I'm sorry for taking.
Hi, how are you?
Good. What, tell us who you are.
My name is John Marziano. My wife is a teacher. And here at Oakland, she's a first grade teacher. A lot of things, I'm glad I didn't go until now because a lot of the things that I feel are being said already. I think part of this, forgive me if it's disjointed, I didn't come here planning to speak. So I've jotted some things down as of the last few minutes. But a couple of observations I have. One, I think to some degree, there's virtue signaling. I mean, to a great degree, quite frankly. I mean, we have chairs spread out like this. Like, we're not kidding anybody, right? Like it used to be 6 feet. Remember in the beginning, they said at a ball game, you could have 300 people and other sports said 250 and others said 500. Just like making up numbers, round numbers, right? And then it was 6 feet. And so well, now you could be 3 feet apart. And so what is this? Like, we're all just playing along. And I'm not blaming you. Whoever put the chairs there is a clown. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. So anyway, when we talk about, and he touched on it, which, because I looked up some studies too. I have an opinion, but I also look at studies. And I looked at a few today. My wife is going to speak. She still might, but you know, anyway. But I looked at some studies and some said one thing and some said the other. That's kind of to your point, right? You could, to what he said, right? I was going to point to my wife, but what he said, they're going to say different things. And so I'm kind of like a math nerd. So when I see something that one person says one thing and one says the other, anyone could come up here and say, you know, this doctor here said this, or Dr. Fauci said this, which I think is Italian for false. But I think that
That's not helping your case.
maybe,
Yeah, or maybe it is.
anyway, so, but I mean, so they'll say one thing and then they'll be wrong. And then they'll go back to it, which it just breeds a lack of confidence that I have in these people. So when somebody quotes somebody else, it just doesn't take a whole lot of credence. I mean, the only quote I like is consensus is the absence of leadership. So when you sit there and say, oh, this poll says this, or like you guys did a poll, it was 55 to 45, then I would ask the question, why even do it? If 55 to 45 isn't enough, like what number is enough? And when the gentleman on the thing up there on the Zoom said, well, we have to sacrifice a little longer. Remember a year and a half ago, we were talking about 2 weeks to slow the spread. So the question is, well, how much longer? Because if you say 2 months, then there's going to be something 2 months from now. It's like, it's never going to end. What number will be low enough for this just to the end? No one ever says that because they're just going to put another little bit more fear here and there. If I could piggyback on what she said. She was saying something about, you know, there's other maladies that come from that we're just choosing to ignore. Mental health. Remember when every time there's a school shooting, they're talking about, well, the mental health. That was the biggest buzzword trending all over the place before COVID. Now we're just ignoring that because of some small little infinitesimal number. So forgive me, let me just.
I was gonna say, I think are we at 3?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're gonna have to start holding people to 3.
That's fine. That's all I have to say. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Make one note, just so people understand, when we say 55 to 45, those are percentages, not people. So,
But it is adoption, right?
it is what?
It is people 55 that chose to.
No, 55% to 45%.
55% chose to have their kids not using masks.
55.
That's what he said. It's not a poll. It's not a poll.
But I just want to make sure you don't think it's people.
I know, but there is no, like, it didn't say that 55% approved. It's just 55 get their kids without masks. Doesn't mean there isn't more than choose.
Yes. Yes, I just wanted to make sure you knew it was more than 55 people. All right, and you want to jump out of your chair, so let's go.
I was just waiting for permission.
It's your turn.
It's gonna be like 30 seconds. My name is Wendy Perkins. I'm a third grade teacher at Oakland Avenue Charter, and actually Vice Mayor gave, you pretty much everything you said, I kind of chuckled to myself because it's essentially what I wrote, but I'm gonna read it really quickly anyway. I could offer numerous arguments as these people have against mandatory masking of children, but I'm gonna focus on the one that feels most reflective of OACS. There are so many things that make OACS a unique and diverse learning environment, but perhaps one of the most important components is that we are a choice school. Parents choose to bring their children to OACS instead of OCPS schools. They are zoned for because of what we offer. They they choose to bring their children to a school that promotes and recognizes character trait development and encourages making good choices. The school where the learning environment is one that fosters inclusion and personal excellence. A place where all students feel supported and parent involvement is valued. That currently includes the choice of whether they want their child to wear a mask. Many of my colleagues have made their choice to wear masks and many have chosen not to. I respect their choice. In my class, approximately half of my students wear masks and the other half do not. I respect and support the choices of my students' parents, both those who have their children wear masks and those that don't. It is their right as a parent. I do not feel it's appropriate to take away one parent's right to make the decision for what they feel is right for their child to appease the wishes of another parent. The parent currently wants their child to be in a school where all students wear masks. They can choose to enroll them in any OCPS school where masks are mandated. Our parents who do not want their children to wear a mask do not have a similar choice. Additionally, if you vote to mandate that these children must wear masks, you send a message to those parents. We at OACS don't honor the choice that we represent and that their voices don't count. I will urge you to keep OACS a choice school on all levels. Thank you.
Fine, come on up.
Okay, so I guess I'm gonna piggyback on a couple things. I was watching via Zoom and I just couldn't sit in my chair any longer. My name is Rachel. My daughter is a kindergartner at Oakley. We're talking about inclusion and personal development and school of choice, right? Well, I choose for my child to go to Oakland Charter because yes, the way that she learns and develops is better for her. But that also means that she needs to be healthy when she goes to that school. When we talk about peanut allergies, one kid who has a peanut allergy or may have a peanut allergy, so the entire class does not bring any peanuts to school, right? That's in our personal handbooks and such. So why is it that something that can cause death in someone's family is not taken as seriously as something like a peanut allergy? My child's been sent home 3 times already. Her whole class has been quarantined. She was homesick for 2 full days. We're talking it's the 3rd week of school. She's in kindergarten. She's now anxious. She doesn't know what teacher she's going to go. She's very confused, like, oh, what teacher am I going to be in today? You know, school of choice, okay, but I'm choosing for her to have this better education. But I still feel like she deserves to be protected at school too. They can take their masks off the second they go home, no big deal, but kids in classrooms in a more stable environment is important. That's important for mental health, is the same way is maybe anxiety with a mask. My child gets anxiety when she sees people without masks. We can look at it on both sides. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, yes, sir. You're next.
My name is Evan Hutchins. I have 2 sons there. I'm an airline captain. I travel all over the place. I see all kinds of different things. I apologize that you guys have been lied to so much. It's sad for me to see. My friend who is very emotional with her decision came up, laid her mask where all of us have been putting our hands, and then put it back on her face. How am I supposed to ask my young sons at 6 and 9 years old to properly wear a mask when none of you are? Everyone at this table maintain a small amount of intellectual integrity and think, how many times have you taken off your mask, touched something, touched your face, touched your mask, and then put it back on? And you're grown adults. My son Hunter is a wonderful human being. Because he doesn't want his mask any wetter, because it's already dripping from his air he's breathing out, when he sneezes, pulls his mask down, sneezes, then puts it back up. I'm confident that he probably trades masks with friends because he likes the print that they have on there as well. To think that the children are properly wearing these masks is absolute insanity. Like, there is no way you can imagine that the children are properly doing that, if adults aren't doing it right. Our friend that is the pharmacist, I truly appreciate the time and energy, the talents you guys donate. He is giving parts of truth that I don't think he's intentionally misleading anyone. The virus isn't going away. It's not. There are some people think, well, we got rid of polio. This virus has an animal host. It will never, ever go away. Does influenza go away? No. And oftentimes those who choose to get vaccinated actually will expedite the rate at which the virus morphs. It's going to happen. And I'm so sorry that it's scary. I lost my daughter 2 years ago, not to COVID. And she's my only daughter. I have 3 sons. There's a few people that know I have a daughter. Most people think I just have sons. And they say, oh, you're so lucky. And it stabs me in my heart every time I hear that. I choose to let my sons live their life to the fullest because none of us know how many days we have left. None of us. Weeks after her checkup, they said she was perfectly healthy is when I lost my daughter while I was holding her. And I am trained in every CPR, anything that you need me to do. I did everything I could to do it. And there was nothing I could do. When we breathe out, we atomize the virus. It goes everywhere. You can't stop it. If that confuses you, ask yourself a question. Have you ever smelled anything while wearing a mask? I'm going to tell you that you did, and you have. So some particle has entered into your body, caused a chemical reaction in which you were able to identify what that is. Your mask didn't stop it. I'm asking us, think wholly. I appreciate protecting the 100-year-old, but the 100-year-old is at a greater risk. My son at 6, we just had COVID a while ago. He had a fever for 30 minutes. Gavin felt tired. The baby showed no symptoms. I was sick for 3 days. We all have different risks. We have to calculate risk. I take people flying at 500 miles an hour because I know you're going to be safe. Is there a chance an airplane can crash? There is. But I do everything in my power to mitigate that. But I know that I'm making realistic protections, and a mask for a kindergartner or a first grader, or even my 4th grader, who sometimes probably would want to hide behind a mask when he's blushing, it doesn't do any good. Please consider all of the science, not just the science of fear. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Irene Marziano. I'm a first grade teacher at Oakland. And 14 years. And I just very quickly, I want you to know that last year, I had a wonderful family dedicate to my room plexiglass from the floor to mid-ceiling. Every student had a cubicle. Every student wore a mask. We sanitized, we washed hands 3 or 4 times a day, and I still had kids go home with COVID. So we did that for a whole year. I'm just asking that this year, please let me teach. They have to see our faces. They have to see what I'm saying. They have to pronounce words. Please let me teach this year.
3rd year.
Thank you.
My name is Katie Anderson. I have 4 children. 2 have already gone through Oakland and 2 are currently there, a 4th grader and a 1st grader, or a 4th grader and a kindergartner. We all assume risk when we leave the house each day. As adults, we worry, pandemic or not, about our children's well-being. Transmission of COVID from adults to children is extremely unlikely, making the risk to our children minimal. Let's not for one moment pretend that children ages 4 to 11 are wearing their masks properly. Count how many times in an 8-hour span that masks are touched, sucked on, dropped on the ground, or worn below the nose or chin, and then multiply that by the student body. How is that preventing the spread or keeping the kids safe? If you want to have a serious conversation about things that actually could aid in eradicating COVID, why no urgency in overhauling the cafeteria food? How about we stop feeding kids processed chicken nuggets every day and instead fill them with wholesome, nutritious foods that have been proven to boost your immune system? How about we add extra recess time to the school day to allow for more vitamin D exposure? In addition to the physical aspect of letting kids run and play, because we know that maintaining a healthy body weight and exercising is beneficial in life and certainly in regards to COVID. How about instituting more hand washing throughout the day? Why no push for things that are actually proven to help reduce the spread? Masks are a placebo. Whole foods, healthy body weight, vitamin D, physical activity, and hand washing are not placebos. Do you know that one COVID micron is 40,000 times smaller in area than the cross-section of human hair? No cloth or disposable mask is going to protect you from a virus that small. Even the disposable masks say right on the box, warning, this product is an ear loop mask. This product is not a respirator and will not provide any protection against COVID-19 or other viruses or contaminants. The evidence is in front of our face, and yet we keep turning a blind eye and continue to force the idea of our children wearing masks for 8 hours a day because it makes us feel like we are doing something, when in fact it does nothing but trap germs on their face. Dr. Corey Cosgrave said, "We create emotion often by the policies put in place rather than the actual statistical risks. By placing a mandate on schools, we create a false presumption that schools are the culprit of mass spread, and children should be fearing for their lives. This generates an unnecessary spirit of fear in kids who have virtually been unaffected by this virus physically. Oakland is a school of choice with a mile-long wait list. No one is zoned for Oakland. Parents have the ability to enroll their children elsewhere if they feel that by allowing the students and staff to make choices regarding their own health is a danger to their children. I understand that everyone has a different level of fear and concern regarding COVID, and those that feel that masking their children is what's best, by all means, do it. No one is stopping you. But those of us that know that breathing fresh air and not reducing our children's oxygen intake by 20% is what's best, also have the right to make those decisions. Let's not strip our children the ability to reconnect after an entire school year of disconnect. Oakland is a school of choice. Keep it that way.
Come on up.
Oh, you.
Hi, my name is Holly Hernandez. I've worked at Oakland for more than 14 years. Just read what I wrote. As we returned to school this August, I realized how many students didn't recognize peers and teachers because they hadn't seen their faces last school year. It was a startling realization that our community that is usually so connected has had such a huge loss of the community feel that we're so proud of. It's important to consider all aspects when considering masks or no masks, remembering that mental, social, and emotional health are vital to student growth and development. Social development, especially for young children, partly comes from watching and observing people's social cues. This allows them to make connections, gain understanding of expectations, and truly learn about the people around them. Being able to see a smile on someone's face, a look of confusion, sadness, or even a stern look provides children with information. Wearing masks can inhibit a student's ability to properly observe and interpret facial expressions. This can inhibit their understanding of the world around them, causing them confusion, frustration, and lack of connection. These failings in children can greatly impact student learning. According to a study published in Frontiers in Pediatrics in June 2021, masks have the potential to cause behavioral changes related to mood, headaches, skin rashes, dry eyes due to the hot air that's blowing up into their eyes from the top of the mask, breathing discomfort, and speaking difficulties. All of these can have a direct impact on the ability for a student to learn. As a school community, we witnessed all of these things occurring with our students throughout our school year last year. Because of the shutdown, the pivot to virtual learning, mandating masks, and the frequent isolations, there are many learning gaps that have been identified in our students. It's our goal to make our students feel safe and to be able to make connections with them. This will enable us to create an environment that is conducive to learning, allowing us to provide targeted instruction, intervention to make educational gains, and allow students to feel a sense of success and accomplishment as they grow in understanding. Mandating masks will create one more barrier to us achieving that goal. An article came out today discussing the stance that the UK has taken regarding mask mandates. In the article, it states conspicuously, there's no evidence of more outbreaks in schools in those countries relative to schools in the US, where the solid majority of kids wore masks for an entire academic year. It also states that the European Union CDC recommends no masking in schools for kids under the age of 12. Having weathered a difficult Delta variant surge, the UK government recently shifted its guidance on the subject further away from in-school masking. This article discusses the importance of finding the balance between protecting from COVID-19 and the well-being of our students. I believe that is what we must do, find the balance. I realize that this is an emotional issue and parents are pushing for what they feel will make their children safe. For some, that means masks, and for some, it doesn't. What I'm asking is that you consider data and not simply emotion to make this decision. It is our responsibility to consider mental, social, and emotional health as part of the concept of keeping children safe. Children that are sad, lonely, disconnected, and unsure of themselves and their surroundings are unable to learn and grow. I want to be clear that I am in favor of people doing what they feel comfortable with. Everyone has the right to wear a mask or not wear a mask based on what they choose for their own health and the health of their children. Thank you.
I'm Matt Byler. I'm a resident and a father. I'm here tonight to ask you to protect our kids, my kids, which I deem as the most important thing in my life. In the last week, we've saw another 10 children contract COVID in our school. That's 30, almost 30 in almost 3 weeks. That's way more than we had last year, the entire year. And we're doing now less precautions than we did last year. The CDC on Friday released a case study about a teacher in a school that required masks. She was unvaccinated. For a moment, she read a story to the kids. She brought her mask down, and 12 of her elementary school students, 12 of 24, contracted COVID. 27 cases in that community were from that one instance, because she pulled out her mask to read a story. I also recently visited our Oakland Nature Preserve, and I was surprised to learn that that's a town-operated place, and that the employees there are required to wear masks. Why aren't our teachers required to do the same? It's run by the town. I don't understand what two different rules. And again, now the private sector has led the way throughout this entire pandemic. They're asking their employees to wear masks. They're requiring their employees to get vaccinated. Why isn't our taxpayer-funded local government doing the same to prevent the spread of COVID, to save lives and to save jobs? We have other rules in our community that we follow. Last week at the commission meeting, we heard about speed limits. You mentioned Judge Cooper, who overturned the executive order last week. He spoke about freedoms in a similar scenario. He said that individual rights and freedoms come with a responsibility. I'm allowed to drink, but I can't go and drink and drive, because my actions in that sense could endanger other people's lives. Just like my kids right now can go to that school and they're endangered because other kids are breathing on them unmasked. Freedom comes with responsibility, just as leadership comes with responsibility. Tonight, I ask you as town leaders to do the responsible choice and please require masks of our teachers, our staff, and students that come into Oakland Avenue Charter. Thank you.
We can take a picture of those and put them in the record. All right, anybody else?
My name is Terry Fletcher. My son is in 3rd grade. This will be his 3rd year of dealing with this nonsense that is COVID and the mask and the going home. One day he was just left on the damn sidewalk to sit there, not knowing what the hell happened. Nobody told him anything. Exposure, he was exposed. It's nonsense. All right, so I'm gonna be brief for 3 minutes tonight. I gotta get home and finish my chain link fence to stop the mosquito pandemic. It's about as equally as effective as stopping mosquitoes as a mask is at stopping this virus. right? Oddly enough, our children are more likely to die from a mosquito than they are from COVID. Believe that?
Could you do me a favor?
What's that?
Be respectful
I'm being respectful.
and don't
I'm being
use
very
curse,
respectful.
and don't use curse words. And keep it to 3 minutes.
Can I reclaim my time?
Yes, you may reclaim the time that I,
So per the CDC, in the age group of 0 to 19, the infection fatality rate is 0.00003. The survival rate is 99.997%. 20 to 49, 0.0002, 99.98. What is everyone so afraid of? You will never have less than a 0.0003 chance of dying. The car ride to school is more dangerous than that. Okay, how many of you have been wearing your mask for more than 20 minutes? All of you, right? They're worthless after 20 minutes because you breathe so much freaking respiratory like moisture into them. How many of your kids come home with even a clean shirt? I mean, you expect them to come home with a clean mask? Do you know there's no test for the Delta variant? How the heck are we figuring this stuff out? They can't even isolate the original strain. So I have no problem if you want your kids to wear a mask, but you don't get to tell me that my kids can't do what they want to do. So if parents want their kids in masks, no one is stopping them. In fact, most people just go on with their business without comment if this is the case. The only parents getting hassled are the ones that don't want their kids in masks. If maskers believed in it and want it for their kids, then they believe their kids are protected. Why must they squelch the freedoms of others who don't? All that's getting said is that you cannot force them to wear them. Why is it that one side always wants to choose for everyone, but the other side believes people cannot make choices or can make choices for themselves? I don't think anyone really cares if someone wants to go around wearing giant red clown shoes. Go right ahead. No one's going to stop you. Just get off my back if I choose not to. So, yeah, I've sent 47 studies to this commission, and I got an email stating that it was received that prove that masks are ineffective. I sent 32 studies that show they're actually harmful to our children. Do you guys have any studies at all showing that these masks work? Anybody? Not one. Wow. So most of what I want to say has already been said, but the acute warning systems are headaches, drowsiness, dizziness, the reduced ability to concentrate and reduction in cognitive function. Isn't that what we're all about in school? We're trying to learn, right? That sounds kind of hard to do with that going on. All right, so even with 1%, that causes drowsiness, 3% mild narcosis, 5% lack of oxygen, confusion and headache, 8%. You're bordering on unconsciousness. Do you remember the guy driving his car that was wearing an N95 mask and passed out from it and crashed his car? That's what we're doing to our kids. We're literally suffocating our kids with these masks. Give us the choice, unmask our kids. It's been long enough now. It's why we chose here. And I'll conclude with this on Ms. Dwyer's comments. You know, Ms. Dwyer brought up some very good comments regarding why we choose Oakland. And it's, you know, that conversation remains fluid. Our surrounding districts have maintained an optional mask policy, so it is a parent's right to choose what is best for their children. All right. Principal Dwyer also said that many individuals that have approached her have looked to OACS to be that option and appreciated that OACS was one of the few, if not the only school that did have a majority of being in the building as an option last year. Principal Dwyer also wanted to note that the governor himself has issued an executive recommendation, and people keep saying it's overturned. Well, that's being appealed as we speak. And to keep masks optional, and has indicated that he will look at legislative action for schools mandating masks. Lastly, masking children. Please be aware that regardless of your position on masking, this is Ms. Dwyer's words, our number of isolations would not have changed if masks were in place. Isolation and quarantine protocols do not consider mask wearing as a factor when issuing isolations or quarantine.
have anybody else?
All right, I'm Holly McGregor. I have a one-year-old son, first grader, sorry. First grader, getting a little nervous up here. All right, I just want to come from a place of rationale. I'm also an OCPS employee, a guidance counselor who has seen the harmful effects that have happened over the last year within the school that have mandated this sort of thing. I want to speak to you from a place of rationale. COVID is not going anywhere. I don't care what the gentleman on the Zoom said. It's not 3 months and then it'll be okay. No, this is something we will live with forever. It is not going away. We need to be talking about long-term rational solutions that we can live with every day. And it is not anyone else's right to put masks on my child. I decide what is dangerous for my child. I chose Oakland to be a school of choice. Please keep Oakland a school of choice, because this is not going anywhere.
Thank you. All right, anyone else?
I'll make it quick so you don't have to do the 3-minute thing. My name is Wade McGregor. That's my wife, Holly. Obviously, I have a spouse that works for Orange County. It's ridiculous to think my 6-year-old son who goes to the charter school can wear a mask properly. I get it. People have to be safe. People are worried about elderly family, bringing it home. Do the best that you can do with what you have. Wash your hands, make sure your child wears their mask properly, wear 4 masks. Send them to school, extra hand sanitizer, that is your choice. Allow us to have the choice to make sure if a 6-year-old goes to their teacher and can't see their mouth, the child is scary. All you people with masks on as a 6-year-old, you don't look very approachable. I'm sure you're all nice people, but as a 6-year-old to learn, you have to be able to see their mouth. You just do. We chose this school for the reason of choice. If you don't feel like your child is safe there, you do have the option to take it. Just as if they make a decision I don't agree with, I have the option to leave. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for having this meeting, because it has been really hard at 8:30 every morning to send my kids across the street to go to a school that they love, with teachers they love, with friends that they are rooted in, with the concern that I have for their health, for their cousin who has asthma, for grandparents who have just gotten over cancer treatment, for grandparents who have failing kidneys, heart disease, diabetes. This isn't just about your choice and my choice. As you said, if it was, by all means, do what works for you. I'm not into telling other people what to do, but the reality is what you do affects my family. It affects this community. We bought our house in Oakland, a young couple, and planned to send our kids to that school before they were born. Before they were born. This town subsidizes that school. I have never in 11 years come to this commission and asked for anything. We pay our taxes, we keep up our property, we attend the wonderful events in this community, and I love it. For the last 3 weeks, I've been lost. It is painful to think that a community that we have invested in, that teachers that we have loved, when they have babies, we are so excited for them. When they lose parents, we cry and pray for them. But my kids' health doesn't matter to this town. Their grandparents. The reality is,
May I speak, please?
I would really appreciate that. Thank you. We put our faith in many institutions. When it comes to a fire in my neighborhood, it's Orange County 37 that's coming over, and I have full faith that they are going to take care of it. Oakland Police Department, I have so much calm in my heart, knowing that they are protecting that school and they're right there. So if there's any of this nonsense that has happened to schools around the country, they've got our back. Right now, the doctors have our back. The doctors are the one who are going to save anyone and everyone in this room with their blood, sweat, and tears. If you end up on a ventilator, that doctor or that nurse is going to go home devastated at the possibility of what happens to you. I'm the daughter of a nurse who did that for 40 years. I saw my mom cry because God forbid she couldn't help every single person.
This is us trying to help ourselves. You've got two bullets against COVID right now. Vaccinations and masks. And you've got an entire community at risk if you don't choose to protect the kids. We can quote studies until the midnight.
We're asking for one.
The reality is,
Do we have one?
Hey.
I'm happy to talk.
She didn't.
Please stop.
When you spoke.
Please stop.
I didn't get an answer to my question.
Hey.
Sure, I can rattle off to you because I've been reading this day in and day out because I care about my children more than anything else in the world. And I'm sure you do too. And I'm sure everyone else does too.
I don't want, and I just want one person at a time to speak. And please, be respectful.
Thank you.
Everybody deserves the same amount of respect you guys got when you got up here on the pulpit yourselves. Please give everybody each other a time. Thank you.
I've got all sorts of things, notes that I've taken, emails that I've sent, trying to get reality across. The reality is 1,700 people died in Florida this week. If 6 airplanes crashed to the ground, we wouldn't be ho-hum about it. There are 14 refrigerated portables outside local hospitals because there's no place to put the dead. If that's not enough to wake this town up and realize you can't just go on with the watch and wait and see approach. And the comment that you said about Orange County Public Schools, no harm, no foul, there is harm, there is foul. And we can look far out in the future and realize no one knows what this virus is going to do long term. Maybe it's nothing as much as a cold. Maybe it causes cancer, which viruses do. Maybe it causes a child to be deaf, which viruses do.
Okay.
I have personal experience with that. And when it comes to not being able to read expressions on faces, there are clear masks. These exist in the audiology and the ENT world. The school can make a post on balloons, and in 2 hours, $2,000 just appears from the community. People want to donate flexible seating. They want to donate everything. If the town and the school were concerned about it, you can get clear masks that are FDA approved. That's what the audiologists are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, let my nerves go away. My name is Valerie Guarino. I am a teacher at Oakland. I'm on my 13th year. At Oakland. I want to address to the parents that are so conflicted right now. My least favorite day was when Mrs. Dwyer pulled us into a meeting right before spring break of 2020 and said, we are not coming back to school. Heartbroken. We were heartbroken as teachers. We figured out how to fly that plane with no instructions. I feel like we had IKEA instructions starting last year. So this year we have our instructions. They're in English and pictures and numbers, and it's wonderful. We have it going. We as teachers are protecting these babies. My children go to the school. We're doing everything we can to make every single family and every single student feel so welcome and so heard and so listened to. So my least favorite day was when Mrs. Dwyer told us we couldn't come back, and those babies that I said goodbye to, I couldn't. It was a goodbye for a week. Have fun in spring break. If you see me at Target, go down the other aisle because I'm on spring break. That was the last thing that they heard me say. Hardest thing knowing I could not hug them goodbye. I could not say goodbye to these beautiful children. My favorite day was this past, 3-4 weeks ago, when these children came back in, and I teach 88 students around there. We switched classes in 4th grade and 5th grade. And I had same students again. I circled up with some of them. I got braces for a long time, over a year. And one of them goes, you have braces for a whole year. They never saw my face. I do keep social distance in my classroom. I'm 6 feet away from these children. So if my mask is off, I do keep a safe distance. And I promise I'm keeping all of their babies safe as I can. But when I hear these conflicting things that we don't care or the town doesn't care, that's not true. We do everything we can as a teacher, as moms, as leaders, as servants, all of you guys. It's breaking my heart sitting here and having people feel like we're not doing enough, or we're not doing anything, or we don't have the right mindset. I promise you, we are doing everything we can. As a mom and as a teacher, I just want to have that choice of being able to pull my mask down and talk to some of my students that are hearing impaired, where if my speaker isn't working, or that child's implements are not working, they can see my lips. I want to be able to have that moment if a child is having a breakdown in my classroom because there's so much going on at home. I want to be able to sit down and get close to them without having them worry. This is more than just what, I just feel like this is more than what you guys think it is. I want you guys to come to the school, see these kids wearing these masks and see them not, see the teachers, see what you need to do, and then make a better decision, because this is bigger. As a teacher, it's bigger. As a mom, it's bigger. And I just want to have that choice in my classroom to do what's best for me. So thank you.
All right. Do we have anybody else in the room? I know we have people who are from afar, and I would like to be able to get to them in a timely manner. Okay, and I want Pam to talk about protocols for a second here, so everybody's on the same page.
What, right now?
You want to do it now?
I didn't know if you were getting to them.
Yeah, I'll get to them once you do.
So,
Pam, you go to.
oh, sorry, okay. So, we have what are called COVID response protocols, and in the COVID response protocols this year that we put out, we have, each morning we have health checks that are through our electronic system that asks the parents to rate, to determine there's multiple symptoms, and basically if it triggers more than 2 symptoms that are related to COVID, it does ask the question if you're going to send your child to school. What we do in addition to that, now I'm going to take away the last 2 weeks because we had some issues with balloons. What we do is that we actually check those each and every day to see who's responded. We look to see who's doing those, and we make determinations based on those. We also have random temperature checks in which that we are going around to the classrooms and random daily to make sure that there are not temperatures that are happening. So one of the couple other things that we are doing in school are making sure that we are moving in cohort movements. And so the thing that I want to draw attention to is that one, opinion or no opinion, the mask mandates do not happen at lunch, okay? They can't happen at lunch, they can't happen at snack. We do not have the manpower nor the capacity of space to have the distance and the number of lunches. We are not also allowed without special permissions to run lunches for a long period of time. Last year, we got special permission and ran lunches almost the entire day in order to have lunches where the students in different grade levels were at lunch. So the students last year were a seat apart, which is about 2 feet. And this year, because of the lunches and the timing that we're running, they're sitting next to each other and they are unmasked. But what we do is we have them seated only by their cohorts. So that way, if there is an exposure, then that exposure we know. We cast a very wide net in regards to exposures because we have a parent population that is engaged in the students and what's happening. So typically in an Orange County Public Schools, they typically, and I can't say that's for all, but my experience and what's happened is that someone will go get a test. If they go to a health department test, not a home test, they go get a test. That test comes to the health department. The health department days later sends a notice of who is supposed to be in isolation. And by then, that person has already been out. They do the contact tracing. And then multiple days later, you will hear often, they will hear that they're on quarantine from a letter because it comes from the spreadsheet. And by then the quarantine is over. So a few things that are happening is that OACS, we have Nurse Leah and I are 100% completely engaged in the communication with parents. We have an OACS health hotline that we've created in which the parents communicate with us in regards to symptoms or anything related to COVID, so that we can engage immediately and that we can enact a wide net isolation that keeps from the spread. Okay, so let's see, additional activities that are taking place. We also have dismissal that is operating where the students are separated in a classroom by 2 classrooms, a cohort, to limit their exposures. They are separated by 6 feet apart. We have asked the teachers in the last few days to create what has been what we're calling pods at this moment, essentially creating a moveless school where the students are sitting in the same classroom as if the 4 of you were in one pod, you would be in another pod, and you stay in that group. You come and interact with the teacher in that particular group, and then you sit with that individual in the lunchroom with that group. So we are controlling movement to the maximum capacity that we can. The thing that I feel like is important to say from a school standpoint is that without mandate outside of school, that causes it's a problem. Okay, so that makes it difficult. The other thing is that is true. Someone mentioned it, is that isolation. I mentioned my statement. It does not matter whether there's masks or not. They are going home. They're going home because the idea of isolation is to protect you from the exposure during the time in which that somebody could be in that incubation period. So we are doing a tremendous amount of things. We are staying very engaged in that process. And so it's not a light job, and that there are many things going on.
And we fully recognize that you guys have had a huge responsibility since this started. And we recognize that you are doing the best job that you can do. Are reacting to circumstances in the community, in the community, in the state, in the world. It's best we can also as leaders. And we do not take lightly our responsibility, nor do we take lightly your responsibility and your feedback.
Anything else you need from me?
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hands up on the screen. Do we need a 5-minute break? No?
I say let's go.
Let's keep going. All right, I'm going to take you guys in order as you show on the screen. So the first person would be Kristen Smith. So you are unmuted and you have 3 minutes. Please do not be redundant in your comments.
Thank you very much. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Great, thank you. I am a parent of a child who attends OACS as well as a member of the Oakland community. I was very excited to send my child to a school of choice. When we talk about choice, though, the choice was never whether or not that school would be safe and a healthy environment for my child. To hear people say that we need to keep the school a school of choice with regard to masking, and I believe in the science that my mask protects you, your mask protects me. And that's just a scientific fact. It's been explained over and over, and I don't feel the need to reiterate it here. But the choice we're talking about is the curriculum, the way the teachers are teaching the kids. It's not a health and safety issue. Schools have to be safe. They have to be healthy. This is a given. We're told daily that there are some choices we don't have at this school. I've received numerous updates via Blooms about what time I have to get to the car line, that I can't be at the car line before this time, that I can't be there after this time, that my child has to arrive to school by this time, that I must follow this flow of traffic. We can't just do anything we want because we say it's a school of choice. my choice to keep my child healthy shouldn't be impeded by someone else's choice to not mask. As it was mentioned before, that the judge in the case mentioned, you know, just because you can drink and you're allowed to get drunk doesn't mean you're allowed to drive drunk. Your right stops where my safety and health begins, and we owe it to the community, especially when the infection rates are so high. I agree. I don't think COVID is necessarily going anywhere anytime really soon, but that doesn't mean that we just pretend it doesn't exist. We have to deal with facts, and the facts are that today on the news, they said that Florida has the highest amount of COVID hospitalizations. The facts are that we've got refrigerated trucks to put the dead in because the morgues are out of space. The facts are that the Delta variant is going after children more than the previous COVID strains, and that there's long-term effects. And the facts are that masks work. Earlier today, I was curious to see how OACS measured up to surrounding public schools who currently have a more restrictive, who actually have a mask policy, not just an option. I looked up available student and faculty attendance numbers and positive cases that are on the dashboard so far. I chose 7 nearby schools: Tildenville, Dillard, Maxey, Whispering Oak, Spring Lake, Windermere, and Citrus. When comparing the COVID infection rates of all the schools, all of them except for one have less than half of what OACS has reported so far this year. The only school reporting slightly higher than half was Maxey, but they're still doing a full 2% better than OACS is with regard to COVID numbers. And 5 of the 7 schools have rates below 2%. The other 2 just over, and OACS is over 4% when you look at the numbers very plainly like that. And you can say it's just 29 cases, but as we've seen with how the Delta variant spreads, those 29 cases could very quickly go into other cases. We talk about fresh air for the kids and the masks. Inside air is not fresh air. Fresh air is outside, and kids are allowed to be unmasked outside. The guidance is that everybody, adults and children, should be masked when indoors. And that's for safety, because the studies early on showed, you know, in restaurants and different places, when the air travels in an indoor setting, if there's one positive case in there, it's going to get to everybody. And finally, you know, I understand the argument about without a mask mandate outside of school, you know, what's it really going to do? I kind of understand where you're coming from, but it's not really true that it's not going to stop anything, because for those of us who have our children normally masked, no matter where we go in public, a child who goes out unmasked and gets infected is going to be severely less likely to infect my child if both parties are wearing masks. And yes, I understand they have to take off the masks during lunchtime, but that's a small, by the time they've sat down and eaten and ready to go, maybe 20-minute portion of the day versus several hours of exposure. And that makes a difference. It makes a real difference. Most of the other things I was going to talk about have already been stated. I also just, you know, I understand the teacher saying, just let me teach, just let me teach. I just want you to let my child learn. I can't, this year was his first time back in the classroom since spring break 2020. I want him to be able to come to class and learn, and I want him to not be able to get sick with a possible terminal illness. I take issue that we so cavalierly say, oh, it's only been 450 children that have died. How many children is too many? It's
Kristen, we're gonna have to wrap it up.
Okay, I understand. I just think that it doesn't really change the fact that the school is a school of choice to make the right choice by protecting the kids. And that's all I'll say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I can't see the next name.
I'm gonna say good luck reading.
Abby Clark. Abby Clark,
Hi.
you're next. Please try and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Sure. So hopefully, thank you so much for having this meeting, and I hope that you all can hear me, and I hope you don't hear my kids screaming they're getting out of the bath. I am both an advanced practice registered nurse in the state of Florida, board certified, and I am also a kindergarten parent, and I also have a 2-year-old in a local preschool. I wanted to say, first of all, that I find it very hard to sit here when so far, the one person that has an actual doctoral level degree in medicine and healthcare has been basically poo-pooed to the side on everything that's been said. And I am speaking about the commissioner, who is actually a registered pharmacist. He's a PharmD. I know this because a PharmD is the minimum requirement that you have to have in the United States in order to be considered a pharmacist. I would like to say that, because I know a lot of this has already been stated, I want to read specifically verbatim from the Oakland Avenue handbook. On page 16, it states, and I quote, "Oakland Avenue Charter School is committed to providing a safe and secure environment for all students, staff, and visitors while ensuring effective response to emergencies that might affect the safety or security of students and staff. OACS will remain diligent in assessing the health, safety, and security needs in response to a changing world." I apologize. I want to know, and this is a completely honest, legitimate question, are childhood vaccines required for the students at OACS or not? Can someone answer that for me, please?
Yes, I mean, there's people that can get medical exemption, but it
That's
takes.
different. Medical exemption is always a legitimate answer. But if it is not a medical exemption, yes or no, are childhood vaccines required at the school?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is no different. We're talking about a public health issue for a group of children where not a single one of those children in the kindergarten through 5th grade age is eligible for a vaccine at this point in time. If that is the case, there are always medical exemptions that can be made for masks. For those people that argued about whether or not you can see someone's mouth moving or you can see expressions, the ADA and the FDA approved two. There is a clear portion of a mask that can be worn so you can read lips, you can see expressions and things like that, while also protecting the children. You can also use a clear plastic face shield. Both of those have been approved and can be used. They are endorsed by the American Disabilities Association. And I'm sorry if I'm getting their name wrong, because as you can tell, I'm a little bit emotional about this. I don't understand where we as a community are not allowing the medical professionals to guide us. The CDC, the Infectious Disease Society of America, the Pediatric Infectious Disease Society of America, the American School Nurses Association, all say that everyone, children, adults, and staff need to be masked in K through 12 in the United States. Please look to these organizations that are nonpartisan, they are nonprofit, and these are people that dedicate their lives to the research and the study and the science of this. If all of them are in agreement that we need to have masks for staff and children and visitors, please look to that and please use their professional opinions and their professional recommendations in this instance. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I believe that's Leslie McMillan. You're next. Can you hear us?
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi there, just want to thank you guys for holding this meeting this evening. I am Leslie McMillan. I'm a resident of Oakland. I have a 2nd and 4th grader also at Oakland, and I am also a 1st grade teacher at Oakland. This is my 3rd year at Oakland. I was an employee with OCPS for 11 years prior to that. And I've been kind of taking notes, listening to everyone speak, and I know you don't want us to be redundant. So just kind of some things that I just want to kind of share. You know, Mrs. Dwyer talked about using cohorts and pods in our classrooms, and then also taking quick action when we think that a student has come into contact or is positive. And I think that's one thing that sets us out from OCPS. OCPS has 202 schools, over 250,000 students that they are trying to make decisions for and that they're trying to monitor. We are a school of about 500, one school. So I think we were able to make decisions and act in a more effective and quick way so that we can make sure that our students are staying healthy. The EPA did a study on masks, on 3-layer cotton masks, which are the typical masks that I see my students that they wore last year. and they're 26% effective. And that's if they're worn appropriately. I can tell you from personal experience as a mom, but more than anything as a teacher spending 8 hours a day with 6 and 7-year-olds, these masks do not fit properly. They're not worn properly, and they're disgusting. I don't want to gross you out, but they, like a toddler will suck on their collar, they'll hang down, they suck on their mask. They're not worn over their nose. They get snotty, they get food on them, they fall on the floor, they pick them up, they put them back on their face. I don't want to make lightly of it, but it's like a germ trap for their face. If it's decided upon that we're wearing masks, then the mask should be changed often, because they really are, they have an odor, they're moist. So I'm sure that they are effective if worn appropriately and when proper hygiene is followed. And that is very difficult during the day when they're eating, when they're at recess, when they're working around the classroom. And then last but not least, again, just talking about the connection and relationship with the students. Any teacher will tell you that the connection and relationship has to be established before any learning can be done. And I know that Commissioner McMullen talked about, making the sacrifice. And I understand that. My mom has leukemia. My father is a diabetic. And we stayed away from them as much as possible until they were able to be vaccinated. So yes, we had to make our sacrifice as a family to keep my parents safe. But I also want my children in their foundational years to learn social cues, to learn how to interact socially, to understand body language, to understand nonverbal communication. So I just ask that you take those things into consideration. I understand that there is data to show that it can be 26% effective, but that's only if those masks are worn properly. I encourage you to come spend a day with us for 8 hours with 5 to 10-year-olds, and I can assure you, you'll see that they're not going to do very much. Thank you so much for your time.
I can't read the next name, please. Heather Vega.
Hi, my name's Heather Elizondo Vega. I'm a pediatrician in Winter Garden, and I'm a member of the American Academy of Pediatrics. That means I'm a fellow of the American Academy of Pediatrics after having passed the pediatric board examinations. I come, I suppose, representing the American Academy of Pediatrics and all of those other medical organizations that are in unison that the nurse practitioner was discussing, that are all recommending masks. I also work here at the hospital, and every day, all day, am wearing a mask myself. Gosh, there's so much to talk about here. I'm just trying to put it into order and not be redundant. The one thing that I wanted to point out is that both the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics are recommending doing as many different layers of protection as possible. So masks are just one part of it. And I am here indeed to advocate for masks in school. But I do get it that there are some limitations, especially in like a first or kindergarten classroom. I do agree that masks need to be changed out, cleaned, all of the like. I do not agree that it decreases one's oxygen carrying capacity or their ability to breathe out CO2. I also don't agree. I mean, I can't think of a case of someone who's been hospitalized for an infection associated with one of the gross things that you can culture off of a mask. I do think we need to pay attention to mask hygiene. And I think there have been a case here and there and sideways of acne or even cellulitis or something like that on somebody's skin. But again, that is such a minority compared to the fact that, as people are talking about the morgues or overrun, the hospital is completely overrun. The pediatric side, which is the side that I am associated with, we're seeing more pediatric cases and actual cases, not just like you're here for your femur fracture, but you also have corona, but corona associated pneumonias in children more than we did previously. And it has to do with Delta. Admittedly, it's still a minority, and the pediatric side is not completely overrun as opposed to the adult side. It is the adult side that is absolutely busting at the seams. All the ICUs are over 100% capacity. Anyway, I think that teachers, visitors, parents, staff, whoever they are, and students should all be wearing masks. But I do recognize all the arguments related to how terrible kids are at it. And really, I saw so many mask faux pas as I was watching this, and we all make them. I make them too. But I think that it's one of many strategies. And right now, while we are at this horrible public health emergency pandemic proportion stuff that we've got going on with the 17 to 19% positivity rate, I think right now we need to do anything and everything that we can. And that includes whatever you can do with social distancing. I get it. You only have so much space. The lunches, I get it that that's sort of a weak link here. And, you know, we're donating money to my kids' charter school to get the picnic tables going, you know, and there's all these different things that you can do. The hand hygiene, if places had physical barriers, that was one thing that could be done. Vaccines for 12 and up, and as soon as they become available. Masks is just one part of it, but I do think it is an important part of it, at least until we can get this positivity rate lower than it is now and the hospital's not completely inundated. If we can get to the point where this is just sort of like what we deal with, because I kind of agree that this is probably not going anywhere. This probably won't be the last variant. And who knows how it's going to be. I don't know how it's going to go down, but I imagine that there's going to be some ebb and flow to this. I very much respect this sort of middle of the road approach that Orange County Public Schools is doing, in which they're planning on reconvening in 60 days. They argued back and forth. I was there for 4 hours watching that meeting, and they went back and forth about how, you know, should we do it this way? Should we do it that way? They all these interesting terms about, should we do it via whack-a-mole or, you know, surgical precision, at which school has the problem? Should we wait till it's less than 5%? Well, what happens when it's 7? They went back and forth about all of that, but ultimately they just plan to reconvene in 60 days, see if we can get this variant under control and get the percent positivity to something a little bit more manageable. You know, the goal, I think, is like less than 5%.
Okay. Thank you for taking your time to join us.
Thank you.
Will Hawthorne.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I would have been there in person, but had prior conflicts, so I apologize. Hopefully this will suffice as a substitute. I agree with the preferences with these, I guess, survey you call it, the 55 versus 45. We've heard a lot of back and forth. I'm trying to go through my talking points because a lot of it, I'm trying not to be repetitive as well. So with or without the vaccine, you're going to get COVID. The vaccine does not prevent you from getting COVID. Everyone gets it. It's just whether or not it's severe enough. So kids, I know are not eligible to get it, but you have to look at the fact that you're going to get it one way or the other, whether it's via the vaccine or naturally. We've heard the flatten the curve argument, 2 weeks to flatten the curve, 60 weeks or 60 days to reassess the mask in schools at OCPS. I think this comes down to parent choice. Have you seen the masks that these kids have? I've seen my kids' masks. It is absolutely disgusting. And I guarantee you whatever's in those masks is worse than COVID-19 for kids these age. I have elderly grandparents. We have taken at least a year departure from them during COVID because they were afraid of what of the unknown. We didn't know a lot about it. We know a lot about it now. So I urge you to trust the numbers. I'm a civil engineer by trade. That's what you do. You look at the numbers and you look at the problem and how do you solve it? The problem is not whether or not you get it. The problem is if you're dying. You look at the US population that have died from this, it is 0.0001%. That's as of August 25th from the CDC's website. You look at the percent of Florida population that have died from this, it is 0.000007%. That's 7 with 5 zeros in front of it. So you got to look at what the problem is you're trying to solve. We're not trying to solve people getting it. We're trying to solve people from dying. Every life is important. I think parent choice is imperative. We need to continue the path that we've been on. Based on the feedback you've received tonight, I believe it's incumbent upon you as the commissioners of the town of Oakland to continue with the 55-45 majority and to preserve our right as parents. We need to trust the numbers respect our freedoms, and preserve our options as a parent. Thank you.
Mark Argenti. Mark Argenti.
Yes,
you're up.
thank you.
Please
Okay.
keep it to 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll try to keep it even faster than that. I agree with Will and the others for the most part. They've kind of mentioned everything I was probably going to say. I'd like to add one other thing. When the school year started, there was a letter that sent home that said exactly how masks were going to be handled this year. And the parents that wanted their kids masked still came to the school with unmasked children. So knowing that there would be unmasked children, and some of them claim to know all the statistics and facts about mask wearing, but yet you still showed up this year with COVID. COVID didn't go away. So that's the only point I didn't hear added. Other than that, I don't agree with the rest. Everyone, you decided to come to school with kids that you knew were going to be unmasked, with the choice to be masked if you wanted to, but now you want everybody else to wear a mask. And I'm not saying it's everybody, I don't know everybody's opinion, but I'm saying those who do. And what changed? What changed? They said they didn't want to politicize it, but all that changed was the politics. Thank you.
Steve Allman, 3 minutes, please.
Steve Allman. I'm the parent of a first and third grader at Oakland Charter, and we are hopefully soon wrapping up our 4th isolation period of the school year. So 2 isolation periods each. And I only say that to put myself in with the overwhelming majority of the other speakers who have absolutely no expertise in public health. Public health or the well-being, the CDC. I look at the American Academy of Pediatrics. I look at my personal pediatrician. I want to thank Dr. Vega for speaking to that point, so I won't belabor that. My point is, while the policy of the school is for those impacted, we should also pursue an equally aggressive in the recommendation.
You're cutting in and out. What's your bottom line?
Kids have not been able to go to school this year, and if we're going to pursue aggressive isolation policies, we need to pursue equally aggressive mitigation policies, as Dr. Vega alluded to, a layered approach, doing anything you can to help keep our kids in school. It's not about mortality. It's about my ability to, if it's a school of choice, I have not had the choice to send my kids to school thus far this year. So I would ask the commission to consider that aspect. It's not all about life and death. It certainly is to some extent, but also, we tool in our arsenal, and it's pretty clear that masking is an effective tool based on every credible public health authority. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Carrie Haynes, and I can't, Cassie Haynes. Briscoe. You're up. Please keep.
Hello, everybody. I am speaking today as a teacher from Oakland Avenue Charter. I'm actually speaking on the opposite side that I've heard some of my colleagues speak on. I am pro-mask in the classroom, and the reason is because we don't need studies outside of our community. We had 10 cases last year with masked students. This year alone, 3 weeks in, we have 29 cases, and it's because of the Delta variant. It's more contagious. It's more, it's targeting kids more. And why wouldn't we do what we did last year to protect these kids? I think some of you underestimate your students, because out of 22 students last year, I had maybe 3 kids that could not properly wear their masks. And that's because I would teach them, please put it over your nose, please keep it on your ears. And I would show them where to put it when they took it off, how to properly put it back on, not to touch it. And I also want to touch base on the fact that I've been teaching for 8 years, and I've had to give the nose picking discussion every single year except last year, because kids were not picking their noses because they couldn't pick their noses. And I got to tell you, literally on day 1 of this year, my heart sank, and I went, oh no, here we go. We're going to do the nose picking discussion, because it came back. And I'm watching these kids pick their noses and then eat it. I'm watching them pick their noses and then wipe it on pencils. I'm watching these kids pick their noses and wipe it on everything. And so I literally had to say to them, I said, look, we're in a classroom and you're not wearing masks. Whatever germs are on your fingers are now everywhere. And so I didn't have to do that discussion last year because kids were not picking their noses. Also last year, I went through 2 boxes of Kleenex in the entire school year. I've already gone through 2 boxes of Kleenex in 3 weeks because I have kids with sniffles, nose drippings. And I gotta say, all winter last year, I didn't have that because kids were not getting the sniffles, the respiratory, the sinus, the winter colds. We didn't have that because of the masks. So people saying that they're 26% effective, I'll take 26% over 0%. And for other people saying that, you know, we don't care about your kids, we care about your kids tremendously. And that's why that we should be protecting all the children, not just the children who feel that they should be wearing the masks. So that's kind of my point of view there.
Thank you.
Andrew.
Hi, good evening. This is Andrew Valencia. My son's a student at OACS. My family is brand new to the community. We just moved to Florida back in March, and I do appreciate the commission giving me a chance to speak. A lot of people have said a lot of things tonight, so I'm going to do my best not to repeat them because I could cherry pick sections from studies that fit my preconceived notions and my opinions when they actually prove the opposite. I'm not going to do that here. I can repeat misinformation that I've heard pundits on the radio repeat ad nauseum, but I think we've heard enough of that tonight, so I won't do that here. I'm certainly not going to repeat the science because folks that are much more intelligent than I with decades of expertise in public health have stated it better. One thing I do want to repeat that I've heard tonight, though, is the word responsibility. Tonight, I've heard a lot of people talk about fear. That fear is driving mask wearing, not the science, it's politics and it's fear. I think we need to look at this in a different lens, through the lens of responsibility. And we have to address this as a personal responsibility to better protect community health. Now, I'm a small business owner. I deal specifically in the field of cybersecurity. So a large part of that is risk mitigation. So, and I know, as a lot of other people have already stated tonight, that mitigation is not remediation. Masks are not a cure-all. Masks simply give us a chance to slow down the spread. And that's all. We teach children how to wash their hands from early on. I have a 3-year-old, and I can tell you her form is imperfect at best, but I guide her and I help her and I teach her to understand the importance of washing her hands and how to wash her hands. Tonight, I've heard too many people write masks off, write the usefulness of masks and the effectiveness of masks, whole writ, because children don't know how to wear them properly. And the teacher that spoke before hit the nail on the head. We simply must teach the children how to wear them properly, when to take them off, when it's appropriate to remove them, when to replace them. It's very simple. I ask you all to make the responsible choice and the right choice here. Please vote to implement this mask requirement. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Rebecca Gomez. 3 minutes, please.
So good evening. So I'm Rebecca Gomez. I'm an MD board certified in family medicine, and I specialize in hospitalist medicine. I've been treating hospitalized COVID patients since the beginning of this pandemic and through all of the surges. And I can state unequivocally that we're in the worst surge that Central Florida has ever seen in this pandemic. My hospital system, as has been mentioned, has had to rent refrigerated trucks because we have so many dying patients that the funeral homes can't keep up. More than 1 in 4 patients currently in the hospital has COVID, and we have more ICU patients than we have rooms, doctors, and nurses to take care of them. I'm not personally interested in politics or picking sides. My goal is for my community to survive this, and we are in crisis, and this isn't going to end until more have been infected, suffered, and died. We are fortunate that most children who contract COVID don't require hospitalization, but due to record numbers of infections, we're also seeing record numbers of hospitalized children. As well, children who only have mild disease are still able to spread the virus to family and friends. And right now, people between the ages of 30 and 50 years old Many of them, the parents of school-aged children, are those most likely to be in the hospital and be very sick. This also includes many pregnant women who are also at high risk for very severe disease. So many of these young people require long hospital stays, intubation, premature delivery, and even for those who survive, weeks and even months to recover. Having a parent go through a prolonged hospitalization is traumatizing enough for kids. Having a parent die is even worse, and I keep seeing it happen. Masks aren't perfect, but as Dr. Vega said, they are an important part of a multi-layered strategy to reduce transmission of a respiratory virus, especially in elementary schoolers who are too young to be vaccinated. A recently reported outbreak in a classroom where an infected teacher took her mask off demonstrates the risks of not wearing masks, as well as the importance of preventing transmission from those without symptoms yet, or with very mild symptoms that haven't been recognized as COVID. I really wish the schools didn't have to be the ones to make these hard choices with passionate parents on both sides, but the science here really isn't political. Wearing masks should not be political. It's just good public health, and it's the best choice that we can make to keep our kids safe until they're able to be vaccinated and the amount of circulating virus in the community decreases. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie/Steve, 3 minutes, please.
I'm just going to take a second and just read the letter that we wrote to the commission. As an Oakland Avenue Charter School parent, I would like to take the following message to the town. I would like to write the following message to the town commission. Please let our children be children. Let them enjoy their own smiles and the smiles of their peers. Masking our children is not only creating social anxiety, but it's removing our future generations' opportunity for emotional interaction with the people around them during a phase of their development when they should be learning new vocabulary and developing awareness of social cues. With widespread masking, we are intentionally preventing younger children from developing the necessary skills to discern emotions and the neurological changes that make it possible to distinguish one's face from another. Clearly, after this pandemic, we're going to have to work very hard at repairing the damage we have done to our children. That means repairing anxiety disorder. The spike in anxiety disorders among children will need to be an active campaign of reassurance to be turned around. And we're going to have to look our children in the face and teach them again about the range of emotional expression. They will need to again understand that people say things with their faces and that we shouldn't be shy about expressing openly what we feel. Since the beginning of time, our kids have enjoyed the institution of public education. Part of that education is basic understanding of facts and data that support logical and reasonable decision-making. Here are some facts to consider in the grand scheme of masking our children. Children who drive to school are at a higher risk of dying on their way to school than from COVID. According to the CDC, children are at a 0.2% chance of dying from COVID, yet the following of a higher mortality rate and are rarely ever even mitigated by schools. Suicide, 1.5, homicide, 0.7, cardiovascular, 0.6, drowning, 0.5, flu, 0.3. Children have a lower chance of dying from COVID than the above items. Sadly, with regard to suicide, last year was a 22.5% increase in hospitalization among children from suicide attempts in 2020 when compared to the previous year. There's a direct link between mental health issues and children's inability to empathize directly with peers and adults due to the mask. When children are masked, they are inevitably touch their face more, transferring germs from their hands to their mouth. There is not one study that has shown masking children has reduced the spread of COVID. In fact, other states with more restrictive mask policies than Florida have a much higher rate of infection. The Orange County Public School Board has decided to go against Governor Ron DeSantis' Executive Order 21-175, ensuring parents the freedom to choose masks in school, and House Bill 241, Parents' Bill of Rights. Again, these both give parents the right to determine what is best for their child's student. I have no objection to a parent who wishes to mask their child. It's their choice. However, I do have a major objection to someone else forcing a mask on my child.
Okay. Courtney Martin, 3 minutes, please.
30, you said, did you say 30?
No.
I'm definitely not going to use 30 minutes, but I will use less than 3 because she just said a lot of what I was going to say. say included in a child has 2 times the chance of dying in a car wreck than they do of COVID. But the one thing I do want to kind of point out that she didn't kind of put in that letter is that everybody keeps talking about the transmission from the child to when they go home. Well, those adults, those grandparents, those mothers, those fathers, those aunts, those uncles, they're adults. They are capable of getting the vaccination, correct? So yes, they are able to get the vaccine. The vaccine, apparently, from what we're being told, the vaccine from.
This is not question and answer time unless
So,
it's a
so the
question of policy.
Okay, so the vaccine apparently is to work. So if the vaccine is able to work and it's available for everybody to have, then the elderly, the grandma, the grandpa, the aunts and the uncles and the mothers and fathers are able to get vaccinated and protect themselves. So I have a 4-year-old that has asthma, and I do not want my 4-year-old in a mask. That is just absurd. And you really should listen to the parents because they're the ones that actually have the kids in the school. And I think we really need to look at it as that. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. And Emily Thompson, you are the last one.
Dr. Raja
Hi.
asked in advance to speak, so.
Can you hear me?
Okay, Emily, then Dr. Raja, you are the last one. All right, Emily. We can hear you. Go ahead. Is she muted?
She's unmuted.
Okay, please go ahead. 3 minutes.
Okay, and I'm not going to go over 3 minutes, and I'm probably going to stay well under. But I have lived in Oakland for about almost 10 years. I'm a little nervous because this actually is very emotional for me. I chose Oakland Charter because it was optional. And it was a choice for our children to be able to, and a parent choice to make this decision. So I was very relieved when I heard that it was optional, and it was a breath of fresh air. And what I have taken away from the school, my daughter has been there for only 3 weeks. She has had no issues. She's in preschool. She's in VPK. The principal has done a wonderful job communicating to everybody. The teachers are, everything has been amazing, and it's been a breath of fresh air that I've have this opportunity for my child to go to this school. And I just wanted to say that, again, parental choice. So I just wanted to make sure my voice was heard. If you're doing a vote tonight, not sure how that's going, but I just wanted to say, that I was very relieved when I heard that it was a parental choice, and I think it should stay that way. And that's why I'm joining this call tonight. Sorry, my kids are running around in the background, so it's hard for me to be able to really go into every detail. But I just feel like we've been supported from the school, and I feel like the school has our children in their best interest. And I can say that I feel like my kids are safe there, and that I just wouldn't, I trust them. So I trust that the school is making the right decision. And again, just like the other parent said, if you want your kids in masks, send them in masks. But, my daughter was terrified to go to just the school in general. And now that this decision has been made, she just got over butterflies and anxiety of just going to school, and to turn around and say, oh, I'm so sorry, this is about to start an anxiety for you again, to have to wear a mask, I think is just so, it's just very upsetting, and it's very emotional for a lot of the parents, as you can see, which is why we've all joined this. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for taking the time. We appreciate it. So we have Dr. Raja is the last one. Mark Argenti, I think you already spoke. So Dr. Raja.
Thank you. My name is Deepak Raj. I'm an ophthalmologist and local business owner. Look, I know this is a contentious topic, but I think an important point is that the mask mandate is only a piece of the equation. I think Dr. Vega touched on that. You need other things in place, perhaps better circulation, trying to socially distance as much as possible. I know it's hard in the cafeteria. This is only part of the solution. It's not an end-all be-all. We instituted a mask policy in our office because actually in ophthalmology, we're very high risk considering we work very close to the face. When we did this mandatory policy, we did not have any intra-office spread of COVID. People did contract COVID, but it was only on the weekends and holidays. And that showed, at least anecdotally, that it does seem to work. Does it get tedious wearing masks? Absolutely. Do I wish I could see people's faces, patients, and build that rapport? Of course. But I'm willing to make that sacrifice because safety cannot be compromised. Health cannot be gambled. As a physician, we must do no harm. In the name of public health, the US has made sacrifices in personal liberty before. We've instituted seatbelt laws and motorcycle helmet laws, for decreased mortality and serious injuries. The difference here is that wearing a mask does affect the health of surrounding people. And the thing about individual rights is they end when they start to impinge upon the rights of others, the mass in this case. It's difficult to really pull numbers out in terms of how effective masks are because it's a dynamic process and the variants have different levels of being contagious. But look, you know what? People have been wearing these masks and flu rates are down across the board 65%. That is we've talked about the influenza virus, but that's also a respiratory borne virus. So masks do work. And we also know that people in the hospitals who refuse to take the flu vaccine, we put them in masks to help prevent the spread. So this is not a recent phenomenon. This is long-standing. I've heard about children not being able to wear masks, and I admit it, they do get dirty, but cloth masks should be clean. But I think children can learn. They emulate the people around them, and I think they can be taught by parents and by educators, and they can follow through. I know my own children are able to do it, and they're pretty young. I know that the CDC kind of did a flip-flop on mask wearing early on, and it unfortunately eroded a lot of the public's trust in that process. But the fact of the matter is this is a generational epidemiologic event. No one knows, okay, how this thing is going to mutate, how contagious it's going to be, how long this will last. I do think it's going to last a while. But in medicine, we reevaluate our treatment plans frequently. There is no shame in that. Only in letting our stubbornness kind of result in these adverse outcomes. Perhaps if they do get the vaccines, and I know they're going to reconvene, and maybe they decide to implement a different policy. No one is saying it's going to be like this forever, but for at this time, I think it would be better. The mortality rate of children from COVID is admittedly low, but we do not know the long-term effects, the long haulers. The quality of life can suffer even though they might be alive. Other viruses before them, measles, smallpox, polio, they can have systemic problems that manifest down the line and affect that quality of life. We've obviously already talked about bringing the virus home to the elderly. This virus is real. The threat is real. I lost my grandfather in the past month and he was vaccinated. So vaccination is not the end all be all. Denial is not an option. I do have hospital privileges, Orlando Health and Advent Health. I know people that work there. I get the emails that show me the numbers, the local EDs, the hospitals. Dr. Gomez had mentioned, they are chock full. The physicians are exhausted and there is no room for people with heart attacks and strokes and traumas because they are filled with COVID patients. We have a duty to society, a moral and ethical right to society, not just this school, to slow this progression. Our children do not have the luxury of a vaccine to protect them. So mask mandates and social distancing are really all they have. Since schools have a fiduciary duty to ensure the safety of the students, I do implore OACS to see reason and have the fortitude to make the right decision, even if it is not the popular one.
Thank you very much. Sherry, I'm sorry. I think I saw your hand up at one point. Do you have something you want to say? Sherry? You want to unlock her? Latifa? She did have her hand up. Sherry? You there? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. All right, I'm bringing this back to the table. We've had plenty of discussion.
Can we have Pam talk one more time?
Yes.
I just wanted to address a few things that were brought up in relationship to policies and procedures. So one, I mentioned that
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Otherwise they can't.
Yeah. One, I mentioned that when you're making your decision, I want you to think about a few things. So no mandate out of school is problematic in regards to us, in regards to quarantine and isolation. I've heard individuals say things about they want their child to be in school. I heard a parent say that their child has been out of school 4 times. I do want to note that because we do take this casting a large net, we have included our aftercare in our numbers. And in our things, that does not happen at OCPS. I also want to note that when you're comparing the numbers for OCPS compared to ours, the difference is that they are only reporting those that come through the health department, where ours include those parents who are testing at home. Okay, so I want to make sure that those things are definitely stated. And so I just wanted to say that, and that again, I want to make sure that you understand that isolation and quarantine will not change. It will not change. They will still go home whether they're masked or not. Okay. Okay.
And that's a good point, because that would be my expectation, but I'm glad you made it clear.
Thank you, Pam.
All right, I'm bringing it back to the table.
Okay, yeah, and I'll start again. I still stand where I was. And we've heard statistics on this side, and we've heard statistics on this side. So the 5 of us have to figure out, the best way I can put it, which statistic we want to believe. Because we've heard people say, yes, there's statistics that say the masks work. We hear people say there's statistics that say the mask won't. So which side do we have?
And we're done with comments, sir.
Is there one study that
We
shows that they work?
are done with comments.
Regardless. So we've got to decide for ourselves what we think is safe. My personal, and this is opinion now, my personal opinion is that parents and teachers know what is best for these children. And I stand with them that say that mask should be optional, and that is the right thing to do for the school.
Okay. All right, Rick or Sal, you have anything to say?
I'll just echo what you said about the studies, also about the anxiety of both sides. Both kids are gonna have anxiety with mask or without it. So everything's gonna be pretty equal on both sides. I just wanna say that in our town, we really, I like for it to be known in Orange County that this town helps each other out and backs each other out. Sacrificing for your neighbor goes beyond what you believe in, opinions or not. And there's ways to, first I want to thank Pam. You guys are doing an awesome job. I mean, if there's 99 things you guys are doing, add one more. I know it's like tipping the cup over, right? And I also understand about the linguistics and about the people being able to read people's lips. We can work around that with a clear mask, adding a clear mask to the teachers at minimum. At least they can see the kids can see the teacher speaking with a clear mask. And again, indoors only and outdoors not wearing them. But what we did last year worked. Right now, the way it's going, yeah, it seems like it's speeding up. I believe in the parents' choice and the teacher's choice, but I'm asking you guys to understand of sacrificing for your neighbor here in Oakland to be known. That's how you take care of them. So in my opinion, I will like to implement the OCPS wearing ban.
Hey, Rick?
If I say mask work or don't work, that's my opinion. I have no medical training whatsoever. The CDC is comprised of 1,700 scientists who have been schooled and trained. So that's who I'm going to believe. I'm going to believe people that have been schooled and trained and study this stuff. And they recommend wearing masks. And, another thing, whether they work or don't work, I had a doctor tell me one time, he goes, the mask's not going to stop you from getting it. What it's going to do is it's going to help prevent the severity of it, because you aren't going to breathe in as many droplets if you are wearing a mask. That made total sense to me. And I want to err on the side of safety. I mean, if I can prevent one child from dying by making a decision tonight that we mandate masks, then I feel like I did my job. If I vote the other way and a child dies, I gotta live with that.
Joseph?
Not much more to add. I know I've been a target of the conversation today, tonight. All the medical professionals, I agree with them. So not much more to add. Everyone knows my personal feelings. I'm not going to force anybody to do anything they don't want to do. But if I could echo one thing that
please,
if I could echo one thing that Commissioner Pollen said, I don't want to be on the wrong side of history. I really don't want us to lose a kid at this school. I really don't.
I have a couple thoughts. I agree with Joseph. Every medical professional that we heard from today agrees with masking. We're sitting at a 17% rate. That wasn't the case last year. That's why we're sitting in these chairs talking about this. I don't like this any better than anybody else. And we're the ones who are sitting here having to make this decision. And I think about, you can say, okay, we eradicated polio and it was a virus. But I think about how scary that was for those parents and how they tried to keep their children safe and probably had the very same discussions that we're having now, just on a different things to do to keep your child safe. But if I look foolish in a year, great. I'm sorry, but I feel like I can't err on this. I feel like I have to err on the side of caution. I understand this is hard. I understand how hard you teachers have worked. I know that parents here are passionate one way or the other. So I'm sorry.
Sorry, I had someone kill themselves last year, one of my students, sorry.
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Study on that still.
We're not taking any more comments, but.
Just a question. You said you're taking.
There was no comments. How does he get to speak and he can't?
Well, can you let her finish and then you guys can go ahead? Aaron.
Is it a?
Hold on, guys.
All right. No. Okay, no more comments.
Wait.
No.
Chief.
No, I sat here and I didn't listen to a word.
Only the doctors matter. You said.
You can't.
No.
Excuse me for a second. My name is John Peak. I'm your chief of police. How y'all doing? I know this is very good attention for everyone. I didn't know, Doug didn't know at the time which way they're going to go. It's not my lane, not my care, but I will tell you this, we're just here for the peace and safety of everyone. They have a job to do, they're going to do it.
Yep.
I'm sorry if it's not going to go the way that you want to go. You guys making comments, calmly pageant is not going to help. Like I said, we're just here to keep the peace, that's all, okay? These are your neighbors, these are your community, these are your friends.
That's all we're trying to do is be heard.
You were heard, they heard you,
They made their decision before they were.
Way before.
they still heard you.
We're all. I provided you 42 studies. And you can't provide me with one.
You had to provide
It's
one
fine, just go
reason.
ahead. All right.
Other than your emotions.
Let's finish up.
One study other than your emotions is all we're asking for. That proves that this is what was right and best for our children.
That's not where.
And I also provided 32 showing they harm children.
All right, enough,
Yeah, that's fine.
enough.
I just wanted to. In the record.
I know, that's clear. We didn't promise you any studies. We got 32 that are part of the public record. So, and believe me, we read these emails. We read what we get. All of us do. And I'm not sitting up here, coming in here. I have listened to everything everybody said. I have changed my mind many times on many things. So I'm sorry, I'm sitting in this seat and I'm making a decision I have to make, just like the rest of these guys are making a decision they feel they have to make for the good of this town and for the good of the school. And that is enough.
It's the truth.
I'm telling you, that is enough. We are going to act professionally. This conversation has been brought back to the table. Anyone who wanted to speak got a chance to speak. And I'm not going to make any more excuses, and I'm not going to ask any more for any further conversation. Believe me, if you were in Orange County, you would not have gotten more than 3 minutes. And a lot of you did. And that's why I am asking you to be respectful. You had your time to talk. You got to make your comments if you wanted to. And don't just look at me and tell me that I came in with a predisposed notion. Everybody at this table has talked about what they think.
I wasn't unanimous last time. And now it's the opposite.
I
Never had a choice to vote till today.
Yes, we have to wait to vote until today. There hasn't even been a motion made. So we've taken public comment. We've done we've looked at every email we've gotten. We've listened to everything. And here's a presentation. Here's what we were given for information, aside from what you sent us. So
you're
it's,
got my studies in front of you?
we have them. They're part of the public record. Anything you send us, anything you say tonight is part of the public record.
No, but I sent them on Friday. So I'm saying you have those now and you look at them and review those.
I don't have them with me, no, but they're right here.
Court of Appeals.
All right, that is,
Especially if the court drops what the judges cited and the executive order comes back, are you gonna?
we are gonna do whatever the motion says. I don't know what the motion's gonna say.
And who's liable for the damage?
No, stop, please. That's enough. I need a motion.
Make a motion to follow the OCPS mandate on wearing masks.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Do we want to follow the mandate that OCPS made that it will be taken back up August 30? It will be taken back up October 30th.
Yes.
Okay, so I need you to amend your motion.
Can I make a suggestion? We have a meeting on November 9th.
Okay,
So if you were to put this into place next Tuesday to give it a week, because OCPS gave a week essentially for people to be compliant.
Correct.
So if we started it the day after Labor Day, which is the 7th, we come back in 62 days essentially on November 9th at a commission meeting to discuss it again.
All right. Well, help me word this, Steve. I'll make a motion to approve all CPS mandate starting the day after Labor Day. And we will revisit this in 62 days.
On November 9th.
November 9th.
I'll second it.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. At the table, any questions or comments? Joseph? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, 4 yes, 1 no. Motion passes.
I wish you well in your reelection.
Yeah.
It's gonna be all year. No, if we know you're not.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you. We appreciate those that are respectful. Adjourn the meeting. Oh, let's, Joseph. Joseph, can you adjourn, please?
Oh, okay. If all hearts and minds are satisfied, let's adjourn. It is now 8:38 PM.
Thank you.